Hello everyone, how have you been? I wish everyone will always happy and healthy. So, our topic today is the translation of the theory. But first of all, let's begin from the definition of the translation. I will give you some quotes from expert opinion, so you can pause this video and read the whole of the quotes. So take your time. Literally, translation is an activity that translates from source language to target language. But it's not simply as that. You have to consider so many aspects, include their habits and their culture. You have to find the equivalent words in the target language, so your translation is not confuse anyone.
To produce a good translated product, translator should go through the following procedures. First, translating. In this stage, the translator reads the text to get the whole message of the source text. Gertler put forth some procedures of translating. The first one is making up a new word. The second one is explaining the meaning of the source language expression in translator. The third one is preserving the source language term. The fourth one is opting for a word in the target language which seems similar to or has the same relevance as the source language term. Second procedure, check and revise. The translator checks and revises the text to ensure that the target language is accurate, adaptable, and readable enough for the target readers. The translator must do the translation, consider the following aspects. The first one is terminology and references material provided for the translation. The second one is semantic accuracy of the content in the target language. The third one is the proper syntax, spelling, punctuation, and diacritic, as well as other orthographic conventions in target language. The fourth one is lexical and sentence completion. The fifth one is the internal client supply style guided in the writing. The sixth one is local convention and any applicable standards. And we also consider the format. And the last one is the most important thing is the target audience, the aim of the content in target language. The third procedure is proofreading. In this stage, the translation product that has been revised will be read by proofreaders to check whether the target language sounds natural. The proofreaders could be the speaker of the target language or the people who are expert in the target language. The proofreaders will also detect inconsistencies of the punctuation, capitalization, semantic accuracy, lexical, and the last one is typographical errors.
The meaning of culture, language, and translation. Understanding language in its relationship to social structure, for example, bring about the consequence of defining the context in which language plays. Language here simply means the tie that keeps cultural significance on a loop. Language can also be classified as the complex system of the communication that humans adapt varying from various cultural backgrounds. Source: M.A.K. Halliday, 1985, Language, Context, and Text Aspect of Language in a Social Semitic Perspective. Publisher by Oxford University Press, USA. Culture as a set of beliefs and behavior common to the members of society. They share to a large extent of the way they see the world around them, and let them consider what is important to them. Culture is the product of interacting human minds, and hence a science of culture will be a science of the most complex phenomenon on earth. It will also be a science that must be built on interdisciplinary foundation including genetics, neuroscience, individual development, ecology and evolutionary biology, psychology, and anthropology. In other words, a complete explanation of culture is such a thing is ever possible is going to comprise a science thesis of all human science. Such a synthesis poses significant conceptual and methodological problems, but also difficulties of another kind kind for those contributing to this science. Scholars from different disciplines are going to have to be tolerant of one another, open to ideas from other areas of knowledge. To develop culture, the members of science society use language as a communication tool, and they possess a distinctive way of communication through the language. The language as a communication system which is a part of culture, and it is always involved in the work aspect of culture. So it is impossible to develop a society's culture without language. Source Marianne Ben Plotkin, 2001, Fred in the Pampas, The Imagination and Development of Psychoanalytic Culture, publisher Stanford University Press, 4th edition, 2002. Translation is converting process that help people who speak different languages to understand each other's perspective and be able to maintain healthy communication. It again gets down to connecting culture and eradicating the culture difference that make exist. The importance of translation in culture and language is high because it pushes the wheel ahead for better communication between two parties. The relationship between culture and translation help bridge the gaps that different languages may create. Going back to the fact that we have so many nations and within a nation there are so many languages that are spoken. The translation has been an element of healthy culture exchange. Source P.W.G. Naben, 1984, Social Linguistics, publisher Remedia, 1984.
Another Al-Masrin, in his article entitled Translation and Cultural Equivalence, concludes that a translator has to assume the role of cultural insider for both texts in order to render a culturally more faithful translation. So, what is the relationship between culture and translation? In order to learn a language, we are not only focusing on language and the communication process. We also need to consider the culture. Why? Because language is an expression of culture and individuality of its speaker. A good translator should be familiar with custom, culture, and social settings of both source language and target language. They also should be familiar with different styles of speaking to improve the quality of translation.
Principles of translations. There are some principles of translations. The first one, the translation should reflect accurately the meaning of the original text. Nothing should be arbitrarily added or removed. Occasionally, part of the meaning can be transposed. The following question will be very helpful. The first one, is the meaning of the original text clear? Second one, if not, where does the uncertainty lie? That's it. So the second one, the ordering of the words and ideas in the translation should match the original as closely as possible. This is probably essential in translating document, currencies, contract, etc. But the difference in language structure often require change in the form and the order of words. The third one, language often differ greatly in their level of formality in a specific context. To resolve this difference, the translator must distinguish between formal or fixed expressions and the personal expressions, in which the writer or speaker set the tone. The fourth, many translations do not sound natural. This is because the translator talks and the choice of words are too strongly influenced by the original text. A good way to avoid this is to set the text aside and then translate a few sentences from memory in order to get natural patterns of talks in the target language. Fifth, the translator should not change the style of the original as much as possible. Changes are likely to happen if it necessary, such as many repetitions or mistakes in writing. 6. Idiomatic expressions include similes, metamorphs, proverbs, sayings, jargons, slangs. Keep the original words between inverted commas. Keep the original expressions. Use the close equivalents. Use non-idiomatic plain prose translations. But what is the most essential is that if the idiom does not work in the target language, do not force it into the translations. Source: Dove Allen, 1989, translations, London Oxford University Press. So, hope you guys enjoy this video. May this video give you knowledge. See you next time. Thank you and stay classy.